Tonight's stories are about the kind of empty space that starts keeping records. A circus seat for one, a sleeping mouth with a signal inside it, and a hotel mirror that refuses to let a guest finish showering. If you want to stay in the room with us, leave a like, subscribe for the next upload, and join the Patreon for extra stories and behind-the-scenes work. Settle in carefully, because every door here opens from the wrong side. The dark web listed a circus after animal shows were banned, and the Replacement Act knew which audience members came alone. I keep a ticket stub in my desk because I do not trust myself to remember that night correctly. Paper helps. Ink helps. It gives the mind something solid when it starts trying to sand the edges off. Across the top, it says row single. Under that, in smaller print, it says audience replacement accepted. I did not notice that line until 2 days after I got home. I had been alone that night, which is not the same thing as lonely. I had ordered Chinese food, dropped half the fried rice on my kitchen floor, and spent 10 minutes arguing with the delivery app chatbot about a refund that was never coming. My phone kept lighting up with a group chat I was not answering. The group chat had gone quiet, in the way a room goes quiet when you walk in and everyone is trying not to look caught. 3 months earlier, our city had banned traveling animal shows. No elephants in parking lots, no big cats in cages. Fine by me. I'd signed the petition. My friend Nia had helped table for it, back when we still sent each other dumb pictures and called it a personality. Then her brother lost his job with the last circus that came through town, and suddenly the petition was my fault. I'm not proud of how fast a friendship can shrink to smaller answers and delayed replies. That night, while the group chat breathed without me, I went looking for the circus poster because I wanted to prove a point to nobody. The county fairgrounds site still had a frozen banner promising humane family entertainment. The ticket vendor page showed a 404, but when I searched the name of the circus with the word replacement, one result came up in a thread on a forum I should not have been able to reach from a normal browser. I'm not going to pretend I was some dark web expert. I knew enough from old curiosity, enough to use a separate laptop, enough to be nervous and still keep clicking. The link sat in a cached index under a dead onion address, mirrored through some ugly plain text directory called Wet Canvas. The page title was simple: Traveling Human Circus, Animal Free, Municipal Compliant. I laughed when I saw it, because laughing is a cheap way to feel above something that already has your attention. The listing had no photos at first, only a text schedule, a county map, and a line that said the show used no animals, no restraints, no paid actors, and no volunteer coercion. It called itself compliant 5 times. It had legal language copied from our animal ordinance, with whole paragraphs pasted in. Under that was a button. Check single seat availability. I almost closed it. I wish I had some better explanation for why I did not. The honest answer is that I was irritated and bored and feeling left out of a fight I had helped start. I wanted something to send to Nia, something mean enough to make her admit the whole circus thing was creepy now too. So I clicked. The page asked for no name, no email, no payment. It requested permission to view my approximate location, and my browser blocked it. Then it asked for a postal code. I typed a fake one 2 towns over. The page loaded a seating map of the old fairgrounds pavilion. That was the first moment my stomach tightened, because the fairgrounds pavilion had been condemned for public events. Everybody knew that. Half the roof had come down in a storm, and the county was still arguing about whether to rebuild or sell the land to a warehouse developer. The seating map showed one blue dot in the front left section. When I moved my cursor over it, a box appeared. 1. Admit. No party detected. My apartment was too quiet around me. I could hear the cheap refrigerator click on. I could hear somebody in the hallway dragging a trash bag toward the chute. I took a screenshot. I told myself I was taking it for evidence, but really I was doing that modern little ritual where you turn fear into a file because files feel manageable. Then the page refreshed. Now there were 12 blue dots scattered around the pavilion, all single seats, no pairs, no clusters. Each dot had a label when I hovered over it. Back row, arrived alone. Aisle right, arrived alone. Balcony left, arrived alone. Front left, invited alone. That last one was my dot. The listing did not ask me whether I wanted a ticket. It showed one already reserved and gave me a pickup time. 11:40 p.m. North Gate. No cashier. I closed the laptop hard enough that the screen flashed white before it went black. The smart thing would have been to call someone, but there was nobody easy to call anymore. I had roommates in college, a brother I texted on holidays, co-workers who would answer if I said I needed a shift covered. I had Nia, technically, but the last thing she had sent me was a thumbs-up reaction to a message I had written too carefully. I opened the group chat anyway. Somebody had posted a picture from a bar. Nia was in the corner of the frame, not looking at the camera. Her brother was beside her in a baseball cap with the logo of the old Circus stitched on it. I typed, "Is the Circus still using the fairgrounds?" Then I deleted it. I typed, "This is going to sound weird." Then I deleted that too. At 11:06, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. The message said, "Single patrons should not arrive early. It upsets the Replacement Act." I stared at it until the screen dimmed. The number had no contact photo, no area code I recognized. I blocked it, which felt childish and useless, then unblocked it because a small, stupid part of me wanted to see what it would say next. It did not say anything. At 11:22, I put on shoes. I told myself I was going to drive past the North Gate. That was all. I would not get out. I would see the fairgrounds empty, take a picture, send it to the county tip line in the morning, and have one weird story to keep in my back pocket for the next awkward silence with Nia. The road out there cut behind a row of closed furniture stores and a tire shop with its sign half lit. The fairgrounds sat on the edge of town where the streetlights thinned and the air started to smell like wet grass and diesel. In summer, you could hear the carnival from the highway. In April, with the band still fresh and the lawsuits still crawling, it was supposed to be dead. It was not dead. There were no floodlights, no music, no food trucks, but the North Gate was open, and a chain that should have been padlocked lay neatly coiled on the ground. A sandwich board stood in the gravel. Tonight only. No animals, no group rates. I parked across the road by a drainage ditch and left the engine running. The pavilion rose behind the fence like a broken shell. The storm had peeled open part of the roof, and the moon showed through the rafters in pale strips. A few cars were parked in the lot, not together, each one angled like the driver had stopped quickly and then thought better of adjusting. No two cars were parked side by side. That detail bothered me more than the sign. My phone buzzed again. Gate closes at 11:45. I looked at the time. 11:39. The version of me I prefer, in hindsight, put the car in reverse. The real version turned off the engine and crossed the road. The gravel made too much noise under my shoes. Every crunch felt like an announcement. There was a little ticket booth just inside the gate, the same one I remembered from county fairs, with sun-faded cartoon lines painted along the side. Someone had taken a brush and painted black bars over the lions' bodies, then written "retired" across each cage. On the counter sat a stack of red tickets. The top one had my initials printed on it. Not my name, just initials. First, middle, last. The middle initial was what made me stop. I do not use it online. It is on my license, tax forms, medical stuff, but not on the fake postal code I had typed into a dark web page. The booth smelled like dust, damp paper, and something sweet going rotten. I picked up the ticket. The paper was warm. Behind the booth, a narrow path of battery lanterns led toward the pavilion. Every lantern had a small white card clipped to it. I bent near the first one because I thought it might be a program. It was a rule card. Keep to your own light. Do not call across rows. Do not approach another single patron. If you recognize someone, let the act decide whether they recognize you. I should have left at that rule. I even turned around. The gate behind me was still open, and the road was visible beyond it. My car sat there, with its windshield reflecting the moon. Then a man coughed inside the pavilion. It was such a human sound, irritated and embarrassed, that it cut through the whole strange setup. Someone else was in there. Not a monster. Not an act. A person who had probably clicked the same stupid button and was now sitting inside, wondering if he was the only idiot in town. I told myself I was not going in for the show. I was going in to warn people. Inside, the pavilion still had the bones of a circus, but everything had been stripped of color. No banners, no animal cages, no popcorn lights. The center ring was bare dirt, raked in perfect circles. The old bleachers wrapped around it in a horseshoe, their paint peeling in long strips. Battery lanterns sat at intervals along the aisles, each one making a little island of yellow light. People sat in those islands. A woman in a gray work shirt 3 rows up. A man with a grocery bag tucked under his seat. An older guy in a suit jacket with the price tag still hanging from one cuff. Maybe 15 of us total, all alone. Nobody looked at anybody else directly. They stared at the ring, at their hands, at the posted rules taped to the seat in front of them. A few had phones out, but no screens glowed. Mine showed no service the moment I stepped under the roof. My ticket said front left, so I found the front left section and sat because standing felt worse. The bleacher was cold through my jeans. Under my seat, a strip of masking tape had my initials written in marker. The letters were fresh. At 11:45, the gate outside squealed shut. Every head lifted at once. No one spoke. A speaker crackled from somewhere above us, and a woman's recorded voice filled the pavilion. Thank you for supporting cruelty-free entertainment. It sounded like a phone menu. Pleasant, flat, too close to my ear. As required by Municipal Order 27B, tonight's performance contains no exotic mammals, domestic livestock, birds, reptiles, fish, trained insects, or animal remains. Any resemblance between the replacement act and banned animal behavior is coincidental, compliant, an audience derived. A few people shifted in their seats. The speaker clicked. Please remain alone for the full duration of the show. The lights went out. Not all the way. The lantern stayed lit, but the roof, the aisles, the exits, the broken parts of the pavilion dropped into darkness. The center ring remained empty. Then something breathed. It came from behind the far curtain where the animal tunnel used to be. I remembered that tunnel from childhood, not because I had any big circus memory, but because I had once seen a tiger's tail vanish through it and understood, in that strange kid way, that the bright show had a dark hallway attached. The breathing was not a tiger. It was too careful. A figure stepped into the ring wearing a white costume that did not fit any category I knew. Not a clown, not an acrobat, not a mime. The suit was tight at the limbs and loose at the joints, sewn from dull fabric that caught the lantern light like old flour sacks. Its face was covered by a smooth mask with no mouth and 2 dark circles where the eyes should have been. It moved on 2 legs, but its first steps were wrong. The knees bent as if remembering another shape. The shoulders lifted and settled like it was trying on weight. The recorded voice returned. Our former animal program included 16 acts. Tonight, for legal compliance, those behaviors will be represented through audience memory, audience posture, and audience consent. The masked figure stopped in the center of the ring. Its head turned slowly. It looked at each of us. When it looked at me, the white card taped to the seat in front of me fluttered, though there was no wind. First act, the speaker said. The horse. The figure lowered its head. Somewhere in the bleachers, a woman made a soft noise, like she was trying not to laugh or cry. The figure heard it. I know it heard it, because the head snapped toward her, so fast the mask blurred. Then it ran, not at her, around the ring. The sound was the worst part. 2 feet should not be able to make the rhythm of 4 hooves, but somehow it did. Heel, toe, palm, palm. Heel, toe, palm, palm. It circled faster and faster, kicking dirt up into the lantern light. Its arms hung wrong. Its spine dipped. Every time it passed the woman who had made the noise, it tossed its head, and she pressed both hands over her mouth. I smelled hay. There had been no hay in the pavilion when I walked in. The older man in the suit jacket whispered, "No." The figure stopped. The speaker clicked once. Single patrons are asked not to train the act verbally. The older man folded in on himself. "Sorry," he said, barely audible. The figure turned toward him. It took 3 delicate steps, the kind a horse takes when it is not sure of the ground. Then it lowered itself until the mask was level with his knees. He froze. The figure pressed the blank face against his shin. The man started sobbing. Nobody moved. The act stayed like that for maybe 10 seconds, head against the man's leg, listening to something none of us could hear. Then it rose and returned to the ring. The voice said, "Thank you, seat B12. Your memory has been accepted." The man's ticket, which he had been holding in one trembling hand, turned black around the edges as if it had been held over a flame. That was when I understood the title on the listing had not been a joke. Replacement Act. It was not replacing the animals for us. It was replacing them with us. I slid my phone out, mostly out of instinct. Still no service. The camera opened, but the screen showed only the ring. It would not show the seats. When I turned it toward the woman in the gray shirt, the image smeared into a gray block. When I turned it toward myself, the front camera reflected the empty bleacher behind me. My seat looked unoccupied. The second act was the lion. The figure crouched, shook its shoulders, and opened the mouthless mask as if the fabric itself had split. The roar that came through it hit the pavilion hard enough to lift dust from the rafters. It had a crowd inside it, and a cage door, and the board chewing sound of something huge waiting behind bars. The figure padded toward the man with the grocery bag. "I didn't click anything," he said. "I was just walking home." The speaker answered at once. Seat C4 arrived alone at 11:42 and crossed the threshold without accompaniment. The man clutched the grocery bag like it could protect him. The act inhaled, and for 1 second I saw him the way the show saw him. Younger, smaller, waiting beside an empty chair at a school play, eaten in a parked car because going inside alone felt worse. Then the roar came again. His eggs broke under the seat. "Thank you, seat C4, the voice said. "Your solitude has been accepted." The show went on like that. Seal, bear, parrot, elephant, monkey, snake. Each act pulled something private from someone. An empty apartment phrase, a childhood smell, a clap that would not stop, a room where nobody had come back when they promised. At some point, I started looking for patterns instead of exits. It was what my brain did to survive. The act never chose two people sitting near each other. It never touched anyone who arrived with someone else, because there was no one like that. It moved toward the person whose reaction fed the behavior. A gasp, a whisper, a memory. It used us the way an animal trainer uses a treat, except the treat was whatever loneliness had made us click, wonder, or accept. And I realized something else. The seats were not random. We were arranged by how easily we could disappear from somebody's evening. The woman in gray had a hospital badge clipped to her pocket. Night shift. Probably no one expecting her until morning. The grocery bag man had bought food for one. The older man with the jacket had no ring, no phone calls, no one beside him to nudge him when he cried. A girl near the back wore headphones around her neck and kept glancing at the exit like she had promised herself she would only stay 5 minutes. And me. No unread messages that mattered. No one coming to look. The speaker said, "Intermission." The lanterns brightened. Nobody stood. For about 10 seconds, we were just people in a broken pavilion again, breathing too loud and not knowing the rules for what came next. Then the girl with the headphones bolted. She made it halfway up the aisle before the speaker chirped. Patrons who leave alone would be counted as performers. A smaller curtain opened under the bleachers. A hand reached out from the dark and held up a cardboard sign. Applause. The girl's arms jerked up. She clapped once, then again, then faster, until the sound stopped being applause and became something painful. Her headphones began playing crowd noise, loud enough for all of us to hear. "That's not mine," she whispered. The act touched 2 fingers to her forehead. The lights went out around her. When they came back, she was in the ring, cross-legged in the dirt, smiling at the rest of us, while the act rested one hand on top of her head. The voice said, "Second half." The girl in the ring opened her mouth. A sound came out that was not human and not animal. It was the sound of a cage being dragged over concrete. The replacement act bowed. The next acts used her. That was the point of the second half. The first half pulled memories from us. The second half sorted which of us could be trained to carry them. The girl crawled when the act crawled. She barked when it tapped her shoulder. She swung her head back and forth during the elephant act. eyes unfocused, mouth stretched around a sound too large for her body. The act never forced her with visible strength. It guided her like a handler with a creature that wanted approval. The rest of us watched and learned the ugliest lesson of the night. If we reacted wrong, we might be next. I kept my hands flat on my knees. I did not speak. I counted breaths. I looked at a crack in the dirt ring and tried not to think of anything the act could use. That is impossible, of course. If I tell you not to think about being alone, your mind goes straight to the rooms where you were. Mine went to the apartment after my father moved out. My mother sleeping with the TV on because silence made the place feel robbed. Me eating cereal from a mixing bowl at 9:30 at night while cartoons flash blue across the wall. The school dance I skipped because I had told everyone I was going with friends, and then spent the evening at a bookstore pretending I had chosen quiet on purpose. The act's head turned. It looked directly at me. The speaker said, "Seat A3. My ticket warmed in my pocket. "No," I said. The word came out before I could stop it. One syllable. Tiny. Enough. Every lantern in the pavilion leaned toward me. Not physically, maybe, but the light shifted, and suddenly everyone could see my face. The act crossed the ring in 4 careful steps. The girl followed on her hands and knees, smiling up at me like we were sharing a joke. The mask had no eyes, but I felt examined. The speaker said, "Seater 3 entered through remote invitation, acknowledged single status, accepted front placement, and remained through intermission." "I didn't accept anything," I said. The act raised one finger. The girl in the ring raised one finger. The entire pavilion waited. "I clicked a website," I said. The speaker crackled. "Consent archived." My phone vibrated in my pocket. There was still no service, but the screen lit when I pulled it out. A new page had opened in my browser. It showed the seating map again, but now each blue dot had a status. Some said memory accepted. Some said solitude verified. The girl's seat said performer in training. My dot said suitable for solo carry. Under that was a button, transfer seat. The act leaned closer. I understood, suddenly and completely, what the show wanted from me. It did not want my body first. It wanted me to choose somebody else. A list opened below the button. My contacts. Not all of them, but enough. Recent calls, old threads, people the phone thought I might reach if I was scared. My brother, a co-worker, a dentist appointment reminder. Nia. Nia's name sat near the top because I had opened the group chat. The button under her name said, "Send single invitation." The act waited. The girl in the dirt smiled wider. I wish I could tell you I never considered it. I did consider it. Not in a clean, villainous way. In a panicked, animal way. Nia had made me feel alone. Nia knew the circus. Nia's brother had worn the logo. Some mean little part of me reached for the idea that maybe she would understand it better, that maybe she deserved to be pulled into the thing she had defended. Then I saw her in the bar photo again, not looking at the camera. She looked exhausted. She looked alone in a room full of people. My thumb hovered above her name. The act breathed in. The ticket in my pocket got hot enough to sting. I moved my thumb, not to Nia, to the unknown number that had texted me. I hit send. For half a second, nothing happened. Then every lantern went black. The sound that filled the pavilion was not a roar or a bark or applause. It was dozens of phones vibrating at once. A hard, angry buzz from every pocket, every purse, every seat. Mine shook in my hand so violently, I dropped it. In the dark, the speaker spoke with a different voice. Not the pleasant recorded woman. A man, very close, very tired. Invalid transfer, the act screamed. I do not know what animal it was supposed to be. Maybe all of them at once. The scream bent the air. People shouted. Someone fell over a bench. The girl in the ring started laughing and sobbing in the same breath. I dropped to the floor and crawled under the front bleacher. Dirt stuck to my palms. My shoulder hit a metal support. Above me, feet hammered, lanterns crashed. The speaker repeated invalid transfer until the words melted together. I saw the aisle by flashes, a phone screen lighting, the white suit streaking past, the older man pulling the woman in grey up when she tripped, breaking the rule because at that point there was no safety left in obedience. The girl from the ring stood near the center, head tipped back, mouth open, still making the cage dragging sound. Then a hand grabbed my ankle. I kicked before I thought. "Stop," a voice hissed. It was the grocery bag man. His face appeared upside down in the gap under the bleacher. Dirt striped one cheek. "This way." He pointed under the seating toward the staff corridor where the applause sign had appeared. Every part of me wanted to say no, because that was where the hand had come from. But the north exit was chaos, and the act was between us and the gate. So I followed him on my stomach, through gum wrappers, bottle caps, old ticket rolls, and a layer of dust so thick it coated my tongue. Behind us, the speaker said, "Please remain alone." The grocery bag man laughed once, a sharp, broken sound. "Yeah, okay." We crawled into the staff corridor. It smelled like mildew and cotton candy syrup. The ceiling was low. The walls were plywood painted black, covered in old chalk marks from performers who had probably waited there with tired feet and too much makeup. Names, dates, arrows, a child's drawing of an elephant with stars around it. New writing had been added over the old marks in black marker. Solo entry, solo exit, solo carry. No pairs beyond this point. The grocery bag man saw the last line when I did. We both stopped. Behind us, something moved in the corridor. Not fast, not loud, just the soft brush of fabric against plywood. "We split?" he whispered. The question was absurd and terrible, because splitting up was exactly what the place wanted, but staying together might violate the rule. Every option felt designed by someone who had studied panic and taken notes. My phone buzzed on the floor behind me in the pavilion. Then the grocery bag man's phone buzzed in his pocket. He took it out with shaking hands. The screen showed the seating map. His dot and mine had merged into one purple dot in the staff corridor. The label read, "Pair forming." The text beneath it blinked. "Break pair or be counted as act." He looked at me. He was maybe 35, maybe 40. Tired eyes, egg yolk drying on one shoe. A stranger I had known for less than a minute. "I have a sister," he said. I do not know why he said it. Maybe to prove he existed outside the map. Maybe because he needed me to know someone might look for him. Maybe because if he had a sister, he was not alone enough for this place to own. "Text her," I said. "No service." "Write her name down." He stared at me. "On your ticket," I said. "Write somebody real." It was not a plan. It was barely a thought. But the rules kept using our aloneness as a category, like a box to sort us into. Maybe the box could be mislabeled. He fumbled for his ticket and a pen from his jacket. His hand shook so hard the first letters came out jagged. I pulled my ticket from my pocket. The red paper had blistered where it burned me. I wrote NIA on the back, not because I wanted to invite her, because at that moment I needed one living person on paper between me and the thing behind us. The corridor went silent. The phone screen changed. Pair forming disappeared. Unverified connection. The thing behind us lunged. We ran. The staff corridor dumped us into the concession area, then through a half-collapsed door into the open lot behind the pavilion. Cold air hit my face so hard I almost fell. The sky looked enormous after the low black hallway. Other people were running too. The woman in grey, the older man, two people I had not noticed during the show. Nobody ran in the same direction at first. Then we saw the fence. The north gate was shut. The side gates were chained. My car was outside the fence, close enough to see, impossibly far. The replacement act came out of the pavilion behind us, carrying the girl in the white costume's arms. No, carrying is not right. Wearing her posture. She moved beside it, or inside it, or in sync with it. The shadows crossed wrong on the gravel. The speaker voice followed us from the roof. Final act. Floodlights snapped on around the ring, but the ring was behind us. The lights pointed outward into the lot, turning the fence into a black grid. The audience, every ticket in every hand, began to glow red. Mine showed a new line beneath my initials. Connection claimed. Naya. Time to verify. 2 o'clock. A countdown started. The grocery bag man swore softly. His ticket had a name on it too. I did not read it. That felt private, even then. We had 2 minutes to prove we were not alone. I tried calling Nia. No service. I tried anyway, because people do dumb things when the alternative is admitting there is nothing left to try. The call failed. The countdown went to 1:41. The act stepped into the lot. It moved differently outside, less like a performer, more like an animal that had finally left the show ring and did not need to pretend the fence was for safety. The older man threw his ticket down and stomped on it. For a second, I thought that might work. Then the floodlight above him popped, raining sparks, and his shadow stayed on the gravel after he moved. The shadow stood up. It had a mane. He screamed then. We all did. The woman in grey grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the maintenance shed. The grocery bag man and I ran for the fence near the drainage ditch, where the chain looked loosest. My phone kept failing to call. The countdown hit 1:03. I opened the group chat. The bar photo loaded from cache. Nia in the corner. Her brother's Circus logo. I typed one message. Are you awake? No service. The message sat unsent. The act was closer now. I could hear the white fabric whispering. I could hear, underneath it, the layered breathing of every animal the circus was no longer allowed to keep. The grocery bag man hit the fence first. He jammed his fingers through the chain link and pulled. The bottom lifted maybe 8 inches where the ground had washed out. Not enough. Go, he said. Both of us. It says no pairs. It lies. That came out of me with more force than I expected. He looked at me, then shoved his shoulder under the fence and lifted until the chain cut into his jacket. Move. I dropped and crawled. The metal scraped my back. For one awful second, my shirt caught. I kicked and twisted and felt the ticket in my pocket flare like a coal. Behind me, the grocery bag man made a sound that was not quite pain and not quite effort. I rolled into the ditch outside the fence. My phone found one bar. The message sent. The countdown on my ticket stopped at 0018. Across the road, in my car's dark windshield, I saw the pavilion reflected behind me. The act stood at the fence, with its blank face tilted toward my pocket. On my phone, Nia replied, "Barely." "Why?" I started crying so hard I could not type. The grocery bag man squeezed under the fence, after me, with one sleeve torn open. His phone chimed a second later, and he laughed in a way that sounded like falling apart. The act did not cross the fence. It reached one hand through, slow and almost gentle, and tapped the red ticket sticking out of my pocket. The paper went cold. The speaker voice came from inside the pavilion, faint now. Connection verified. The gate opened behind it. Not for us, for the people still inside. I would love to tell you, everyone made it out. I cannot. The woman in gray and the older man came through the maintenance shed door and reached the lot, but the girl with the headphones never crossed the fence. Two others did not appear again. The older man's shadow followed him in pieces, lagging behind each step until the streetlights caught it and forced it back where it belonged. The grocery bag man and I ran to my car. He got in because neither of us was willing to be alone yet, rule or no rule. I drove with both hands locked on the wheel while he called his sister and set her name into the phone like it was a rope. Nia called me 3 times before I answered. When I finally did, she was angry, scared, half asleep, and still my friend in the way people are when something real cuts through months of stupid silence. "What happened?" she kept asking. I could not explain it. Not then. I just asked whether her brother was with her. She went quiet. "Why? Is he with you?" "No," she said. "He left early. He said he had a work thing." I pulled over so fast the grocery bag man braced against the dashboard. "What work thing?" Nia breathed into the phone. "Circus cleanup," she said. "Somebody called old staff. Cash for one night." There it was. The human part. The part that made the impossible thing worse, because it had help from ordinary people with bills. Someone had reopened the fairgrounds. Someone had printed tickets. Someone had scraped contact lists, or bought leaked data, or pulled names from old vendor records. The replacement act might have been impossible, but the invitation system was not. It was built from our city, our argument, our ban, our loneliness, our phones. Nia's brother did not come home that night. By morning, the fairgrounds were locked again. The sandwich board was gone. There were no lanterns, no raked ring, no broken eggs, no footprints that made any sense. But under the front left bleacher, Nia found a strip of masking tape with my initials on it. They never found her brother. They did find the girl with the headphones 3 days later, alive at a bus stop, outside the county line. Her palms were bandaged. When a nurse asked what happened, she said the audience needed practice. The grocery bag man and I exchanged numbers. For a month, we checked in every night at 11:45 with the same 2 words, "Still here." Then he stopped answering. His sister later told me he had taken a temporary event cleanup job, and while she said it, a red ticket sat beside her keys, with family, rate denied, printed across the top. I have reported the listing to every agency whose form would accept enough characters. Most did not respond. One reporter called from a blocked number, asked whether I lived alone, and hung up when I asked how she knew about the ticket. The dark web page is gone now, mostly. The original listing returns a blank page with 1 line of text. No animals available, but mirrors of mirrors keep appearing around towns that recently banned animal shows. The wording changes from ethical circus to municipal compliant wonder exhibition, but the button is always the same. I keep the ticket stub in my desk because it changes when I do not look at it. For a while, it only said row single and audience replacement accepted. Then, after the grocery bag man stopped answering, a second line appeared. Pair forming failed. Last month, after Nia and I finally talked about everything we should have said before that night, the back of the ticket changed too. Her name, the one I wrote in panic, faded until it was almost gone. In its place, new text pressed up through the paper from underneath. Do not verify with the same connection twice. I do not live alone anymore. Nia sleeps on my couch some nights, and I sleep on hers when the apartment feels too quiet. We do not talk about it as fear. We call it catching up. We make coffee. We complain about work. We watch dumb shows with the volume too loud. But every night at 11:40, my phone loses 1 bar of service. Every night at 11:45, something in the walls makes a soft sound like distant applause. And 2 days ago, a new message arrived from the unknown number I had tried to send the invitation back to. It said, "New act approved." Under it was a photo of the old pavilion, cleaned and bright, with no cages anywhere. In the front left section, one red ticket waited on the seat, with my initials on it. The seat beside it was empty. My dentist found a dark web transmitter sealed under one molar, and it only broadcasts while I am asleep. I used to think the worst thing a dentist could say was, "You need a root canal." It is not. The worst thing a dentist can say is your name in that slow, careful voice people use when they are trying not to scare you before they understand whether you have already noticed the blood on the floor. Mine said, "How long have you had this?" I had a plastic bite block between my teeth, a lead apron over my chest, and one cheek still stretched open from the X-ray tab. I tried to ask, "Had what?" But it came out as a wet noise that made the hygienist wince. The dentist, Dr. Bell, turned the monitor toward me. There was the ghostly gray shape of my jaw, my fillings, my roots, the little dark caverns where every bad flossing habit had eventually filed a complaint. Under the second molar on the lower right, sealed beneath a crown I barely remembered getting, was a perfect black rectangle with 2 hair-thin prongs extending from one side. It looked like a staple hiding in my bone. Dr. Bell did not call it a transmitter at first. She called it a foreign object, then an artifact. Then, after taking a second X-ray from a different angle and getting the same clean outline, she stopped reaching for polite dental words. "That should not be there," she said. I was 28, tired, and 2 weeks into sleeping on my couch because my bedroom radiator had started making a ticking sound behind the wall. I had come in because the tooth ached when I drank anything cold. I expected a lecture about grinding my teeth, maybe a payment plan I would pretend was fine. Instead, my dentist took her gloves off, put them back on, and asked if I had ever had dental surgery outside a normal clinic. "No," I said. "Implants? No. Military service? Research trial? Accident reconstruction? I work in billing for an HVAC company." The hygienist gave a tiny laugh. She immediately swallowed. Dr. Bell zoomed in until the black rectangle filled half the monitor. There were 4 pale dots along one side, almost like contact points. The prongs curved around the root instead of piercing it. Whoever put it there had not shoved it in by accident. They had built the crown over it, and sealed the tooth like a lid. "Who did this crown?" she asked. I told her the name of the old practice on Mercer, the one my parents used when I was a teenager. It had closed years ago after the main dentist retired. I remembered the waiting room better than the procedure. A fish tank with no fish, just plastic coral, a stack of car magazines from before I could drive, my mother arguing with insurance over the phone while I watched a daytime judge show with the sound off. "How old were you?" 17, maybe 18. She leaned closer to the monitor. "Do you have any metal taste? Buzzing? Heat? Cold hurts. Anything else?" I almost said no. Then I remembered the clicking. For the last month, I'd been waking up with my jaw sore and my tongue pressed hard against that molar. I blamed stress. I blamed the radiator. Twice I woke with the voice memo app open on my phone, though I did not remember opening it. Both recordings were blank, except for breathing and one soft tapping sound, like fingernails on a table. I had deleted them because they embarrassed me. "Sometimes I wake up with my mouth hurting," I said. Dr. Bell looked at me for too long. "I want you to see an oral surgeon," she said. "Soon. Can you take it out?" "Not here." "What is it?" She glanced at the hygienist, and that glance did more damage than any answer. "I don't know." She printed the x-rays for me. 3 pages. On the first, she circled the object in blue pen. On the second, she wrote urgent referral. On the third, she wrote a serial number so small I thought at first it was a measurement. M19. "Where did that come from?" I asked. "It showed up when I adjusted the contrast," she said. "That is printed on the thing?" "It appears to be etched." I laughed once, because there was no other shape for the air to take. Dr. Bell did not laugh. "Do not Google dental transmitter," she said. So of course I did in the parking lot. Normal search results gave me conspiracy forums, old news about braces picking up radio stations, and ads for night guards. I would have given anything for it to stay stupid. But the serial number changed everything. M19 dental transmitter, M19 molar implant, M19 sleep broadcast. The third search did not show much at first. A cached snippet, a broken result, a page title in a language I did not know. Then a link appeared in an index I recognized from the dumbest phase of my 20s, when I used to browse hidden forums just to prove to myself I was not as sheltered as my mother thought. The link was dead on the normal web. It was not dead through Tor. I went home, shut my blinds, dug an old laptop out of a closet, and made every bad decision in the order people make them when they are scared and curious. I did not enter my name. I did not log in. I did not download anything. I just copied the serial number into a search box on a black page with no logo. The result came back immediately. M19. Molar sleep relay. Status. Dormant while waking. Under that was a thumbnail of an open mouth. Not my mouth. At least I told myself that for almost a full minute. The photo was grainy, overlit, and cropped from chin to nose. But the lower right molar had the same crown. There was a tiny notch in the enamel where I had chipped it on an olive pit in college. The listing had a title. Subject speaks only after first REM drop. There was a play button, a price in cryptocurrency, and a view account. 0. I closed the laptop so fast the screen slapped against the keyboard. Then I opened it again. Fear is not clean. It does not arrive with wisdom. It arrives with a need to know how much of your life has been happening without you. The listing page had a schedule. It showed 7 nights of recent activity, all between 2:13 and 4:02 in the morning. Each session had a duration, a waveform, and a little green tag that said mouth audio clean. The most recent one was from the night before. I clicked it before I could think better. The audio started with breathing. Mine. I know my own sleep breathing the way you know your own footsteps in a hallway. A little blocked on one side because I broke my nose when I was 12. A faint click at the back of the throat. It played from the laptop speakers with a closeness that made me cover my mouth. Then I heard tapping. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Pause. 3 taps again. My jaw ached in answer. A man's voice spoke through static, not in the room, but through the recording. M19, confirm address drift. My sleeping voice answered. Not awake. Not normal. Thick and low, like I was talking around cotton. Same apartment. I knocked the chair backward, getting away from the desk. The recording kept playing. Bedroom access. Not sleeping there. Reason. Ticking in wall. I had not told anyone about the radiator except my landlord, and even that was in a maintenance form. The man's voice clicked softly, like he was turning pages. Teeth pressure stable. Ask again after dream entry. Then the audio changed. My breathing deepened. There was a small wet sound as my tongue moved against the tooth. My sleeping voice said, "He's not in the wall yet." I slammed the laptop shut and sat on the floor until my legs hurt. I did not sleep that night. At least I tried not to. I made coffee at midnight and burned my tongue on the first swallow. I watched old sitcom reruns with the subtitles on. I chewed gum on the left side only. Around 3, the apartment dipped into that hour where every appliance sounds too intentional. The radiator in my bedroom ticked behind the closed door. At 3:17, my phone lit up. Unknown number. The text said, "Signal poor tonight. Please return, subject to primary sleep area." I did something useless and human. I texted back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. The laptop, still closed on my desk, made the soft little click of a speaker activating. My own sleeping voice came from inside it. Subject is awake. I was standing. I do not remember standing. The laptop lid was still shut. The power light was off. My jaw pulsed once, warm and deep under the crown. The radiator ticked again from the bedroom. This time the sound came in 3s. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. I left the apartment with no shoes on. The hallway carpet was rough under my socks. I sat in my car until sunrise, with the doors locked and my tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth because I was afraid that if it touched the molar, I would answer somebody. At 8, I called Dr. Bell. Her receptionist said she was with a patient. I said it was urgent. She called me back 12 minutes later and did not sound surprised enough. "Did you search the serial number?" she asked. I closed my eyes. "You told me not to Google it." "And did you?" "Yes." She exhaled through her nose. "Come in before we open tomorrow. Use the back door." "What is happening?" "I found 2 more. I drove there in daylight anyway." I parked across from the clinic and watched people come out holding little white bags with toothbrushes inside. Nobody looked altered. Nobody looked like they had a radio in their jaw. That was the worst part. Every person who walked past my car became a possible sleeper. I did not go in. Instead, I went to the old practice on Mercer. It had become a tax prep office. The sign still had the same outline where the dental logo used to be, a pale tooth-shaped ghost on the brick. Inside, a woman at the desk, told me they had no records from the previous tenant. I asked if the retired dentist's name meant anything to her. She shook her head and offered me a consultation about deductions. I almost left. Then I saw the fish tank. It sat empty in the corner, filled with blue gravel and plastic coral, exactly as I remembered. No water, no fish, just a decorative relic nobody had bothered to remove. There was a small metal plate on the bottom front edge of the tank, donated by Mercer Sleep Study, 2014. My crown was done in 2015. I asked the woman if I could take a picture of the tank because my mother used to bring me there. She looked at me like I was strange, but she said okay. The plate looked normal in the photo. When I zoomed in later, there was a web address printed under the donation line in letters too small to read from standing height. It was not a normal web address. Back home, I typed it into the old laptop. The page loaded as a directory of patient numbers. No graphics, no warning, just columns. M01 through M31. Some were marked failed, some were marked extracted, some were marked quiet. 3 were marked active. M19 was active. M22 had a note beside it. Awake too often. Reroute through partner. M03 said, lost after flood. Still answers. At the bottom was an upload form labeled dental provider access. Under that, an old scanned consent form from Mercer Sleep Study. The logo matched the fish tank plate. The form promised a paid research study for teenagers with bruxism, which is the polite word for grinding your teeth until your jaw turns into a vice. I remembered it then. Not all of it, just the shape. My mother signing something because the crown would be discounted if I joined a harmless sleep survey. Me embarrassed because the dentist asked whether I woke up with headaches. A nurse telling me to breathe through my nose while a mask lowered over my face. I had been awake when I arrived. I did not remember leaving. The consent form had my mother's signature on it. Below it was a second signature line. Mine. It was not my handwriting. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, bright and distracted, the way she always does when she's cooking and trying to talk at the same time. Did I do a sleep study at the dentist? I asked. The line went quiet, except for something sizzling in a pan. Why? Mom? She turned off the burner. That tiny click told me more than any answer. She said she remembered a discount, a mouth guard, maybe a waiver. She said they told her it was for stress grinding and that I would get follow-up calls. She said we were broke that year in a tone that made the sentence both an apology and a defense. Did anyone call? I asked. A man checked in a few times, she said. He asked if you were sleeping better. What did you tell him? That you were. Did he ask anything else? She did not answer quickly. He asked if you talked in your sleep. I felt the crown throb under my tongue. I slept in my car again that night, not because it was safe, but because the apartment no longer felt like mine. I parked outside a 24-hour grocery store under a light with 3 security cameras pointed vaguely in my direction. I drank coffee until my hands trembled. At 2:40, I blinked too slowly. When I opened my eyes, the clock said 3:26. The passenger window was fogged from the inside. On the glass, written backward from my breath, were 4 words. Ask about the wall. My mouth tasted like pennies. The voice memo app was open. This time I did not delete the recording. It began with the hum of the grocery store lights and my breathing, shallow and congested. Then the tapping started, faint as if someone were knocking from inside a closed mouth. M19, the same man said. You are outside the primary room. My sleeping voice answered. He can still hear me. Who can hear you? The one in the wall. Is he the original listener? My sleeping voice made a sound I had never made awake. A small laugh with no humor in it. He was installed first. The recording cut to static. I drove to Dr. Bell's clinic before dawn and waited by the back door until her car pulled in. She looked older than she had 2 days before. Her hair was tied badly, and she carried a metal lockbox instead of a purse. Inside, she said. The clinic was dim. Every chair empty. Every cartoon tooth poster suddenly unbearable. She led me to an imaging room and locked the door behind us. I need to tell you something before we do anything, she said. That is never a good start. I bought equipment from an estate sale last year. Sensors, old scanners, some archival software. It came from a closed dental research company. I did not know what it was until your X-ray. She opened the lockbox. Inside were 3 printed X-rays and a small black device sealed in a plastic evidence bag. One patient had this under a bridge, she said. He let me remove it. He never came back for his follow-up. The object in the bag was smaller than my thumbnail. Matte black, a thin gold contact along one side. It looked harmless in the way dead electronics look harmless, as if harm requires motion. Did it broadcast? I asked. Only when he was under sedation. I almost laughed again. That is comforting. I am not removing yours here unless I understand the risk. The risk is it is in my mouth. The risk is that it may be using you as a relay, not as a source. I did not know what she meant until she pulled up a diagram on the computer. A jaw, a molar, a little black rectangle under the crown. The prongs did not point towards the outside world. They curled inward, toward the nerve. It is not a normal transmitter, she said. Not like a radio tower. It seems to turn nerve impulses into short-range signal bursts. You are saying it broadcasts dreams. No, she said. I'm saying somebody built a device that waits until your conscious filtering drops, then uses your trigeminal nerve as an antenna. That sounds like broadcasting dreams. It sounds like interrogating a sleeping person. The room seemed to tilt. She told me the 2 new cases were old crowns from the same MRSA practice. One patient was in assisted living and had been answering in the middle of afternoon naps. The other was a man who had moved out of state. Both serials were active on the directory. Both had notes about pressure, sleep depth, and environmental cues. Why would anyone do this? I asked. Dr. Bell looked at the black device in the bag. At first, research money. After that, access. She had printed a page from the hidden directory. There were buyer comments under old sessions, usernames, and short reviews. Clear answers after medication. Subject lies when awake. Honest after REM. Good for passwords if asked as childhood memory. Try grief prompts. More detail. My throat tightened. Passwords. Bank logins. Security questions. Addresses. Secrets. Anything a person has stored deep enough to answer without thinking. Then why ask me about the wall? She did not answer. The radiator had been ticking for weeks. The transmitter had started broadcasting around the same time. I had thought those were connected because fear likes symmetry, but Dr. Bell's face said she was seeing another shape. What is behind your bedroom wall? She asked. A radiator. Pipes. The apartment next door, maybe. Do you share a wall with another unit? A vacant one. It has been vacant since January. She wrote that down. Do not sleep in that apartment again. I already figured that part out. And do not get sedated by anyone until we decide where to remove it. The words had barely left her mouth when the intercom clicked on. The clinic was closed. The lobby was empty. A man's voice came through the ceiling speaker. M19 is awake. Dr. Bell went still. The voice continued, calm and close, filtered by cheap speaker static. Provider Bell. Unauthorized imaging occurred at 6:12. Please return, subject to sleep state, for calibration. She reached for the wall switch and shut the intercom off. It clicked back on by itself. Provider Bell. You purchased restricted assets without assuming monitoring obligations. Dr. Bell whispered. Back door. We left the x-rays on the counter and ran. In the hallway, every dental chair light turned on one after another. White circles flashed against the walls. The suction hoses shivered in their holders like they were being breathed through. From one empty exam room came the sound of someone rinsing and spitting. I did not look in. Dr. Bell got me to the back lot and shoved the lockbox into my hands. Take this. Why? Because if they want the equipment, I don't want it here. Who is they? The clinic phone rang inside. Then my phone rang. Then hers. Then every landline in the dark building started ringing at once. Dr. Bell's face tightened. Go somewhere with people. Stay awake. I will call a surgeon I trust. Can you come with me? For 1 second, she looked like she might. Then a chair light inside the clinic burst, and she flinched toward the sound. I have other patients' records in there, she said. I wanted to call her brave. Later, maybe I did. In the moment, I hated her a little for having a responsibility more important than my fear. I drove to a diner near the interstate and sat in a booth by the kitchen until noon. I kept the lockbox under my feet. Every time I started to nod, I bit the inside of my cheek. The crown hurt constantly now. Not sharp, deep, electrical. Dr. Bell texted at 12:18. Found surgeon. No sedation. Local only. 5 p.m. Do not answer calls. At 12:19, another text arrived from unknown. Provider Bell is tired. I called her. She did not answer. At 12:26, an audio file came through. I knew not to play it. I played it. Dr. Bell was breathing the way people breathe when they are asleep in a chair. The man's voice said, Provider Bell, where did M19 go? Her sleeping voice answered, Diner, west exit, booth near kitchen. I stood so fast, my knees hit the table. The waitress turned around with a coffee pot in her hand. You okay, hon? Behind her, through the front window, a white van rolled slowly through the parking lot. It had no logo, no plates on the front. A small magnetic sign on the side said, Mobile Dental Outreach. I left through the kitchen. I do not remember asking permission. I remember the smell of fryer oil, the cook yelling, my socks sliding, because I still had not bought proper shoes after the night in the car. I pushed out through the delivery door into an alley and ran until the crown in my mouth pulsed in time with my heartbeat. The van did not follow me. It did not need to. By then, I understood the worst part. They did not track me through GPS. They tracked me through sleeping mouths. Dr. Bell had said the device might be a relay. If that was true, M19 was not just sending my answers. It was receiving something too. Instructions, prompts, pressure. Maybe the tapping in the wall was another subject nearby, another relay pinging through pipes and old wiring and the soft tissue of people who had signed forms when they were too young to understand. I hid in a public library until it closed, then used a computer there to search the hidden directory again. I know that sounds impossible, but fear teaches you speed. M19 was still active. M22 updated every few minutes. Awake too often. Reroute through partner. Then a new line appeared under my serial. Subject aware. Initiate dream bait. Page refreshed. A video thumbnail loaded. It showed my bedroom. Not from a camera angle I recognized. From inside the wall, looking through the thin vertical gap where the radiator pipe came up from the floor. My bed was unmade. A hoodie lay in a twist at the foot. On the nightstand was a glass of water I had left 3 days earlier. The bedroom door was open. I had closed it when I left. In the video, something behind the wall tapped the pipe. 3, 2, 3. Then a voice, not the man from the recordings, whispered from inside the wall. M19, come back to bed. I must have made a sound because the librarian at the desk looked over. I shut the page. At 4:31, Dr. Bell texted from a new number. Not safe. Surgeon compromised. Remove crown yourself if pressure spreads. Then, I'm sorry. There are messages that do not leave room for hope. That was one. I went to my mother's house. Not because it was safe. Because some childish part of me believed that if the whole thing started with her signature, it should at least have to stand in front of her kitchen lights. She cried when she saw me. I had not looked in a mirror since the clinic. My face was gray. My lower jaw had swollen on the right side. I smelled like coffee, panic, and library carpet. I showed her the x-rays. I played 10 seconds of the recording. I watched the guilt move through her so clearly, it almost became a physical thing between us. I thought I was helping, she said. I know. We couldn't afford it. I know. There was nothing else useful to say. At 6:10, I fell asleep at her kitchen table. I did not mean to. I had my head propped on one hand, while she called emergency dentists from the other room, and then the table tilted under me and the world dropped. What I remember next is not exactly a dream. I was in my bedroom, but the room was too long. The radiator sat at the far wall, ticking patiently. My bed was made with sheets I had not owned since childhood. The fish tank from the old dental office sat on the dresser. Blue gravel glowing under water that should not have been there. Something moved behind the plastic coral. The voice from the wall said, "Open." In the dream, my mouth opened. In my mother's kitchen, my mouth opened too. I know because she recorded it. Not on purpose. She had set her phone on the counter while the emergency dental line played hold music. The video showed me asleep at the table, jaw slack, one hand curled around a coffee mug. My sleeping voice said, "Primary listener installed in unit wall." My mother froze in the background. The man's voice came from my mouth, not from a speaker, from my mouth. M19, identify childhood safe answer. My sleeping voice responded, "Blue coral." Identify mother's maiden name. My mother dropped the phone. The rest of the video was floor tile, her footsteps, and my voice answering questions I do not remember hearing. When I woke, she was slapping my face lightly and saying my name like she could pull me back one syllable at a time. Blood ran down my chin. Not a lot. Enough. I had bitten the crown hard enough to crack it. The pressure had spread into my ear. My mother drove me to an emergency clinic 2 towns over because every local dentist she reached either did not answer or told us, in the same flat tone, that no emergency appointments were available for Mercer study patients. We did not say Mercer study. They did. The clinic that finally took us was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a closed vitamin shop. The dentist was an older woman with purple glasses who looked at the x-ray, looked at me, and said, "I can numb you. I cannot promise you will stay awake." "No sedation," I said. "I did not say sedation." She showed me the anesthetic cartridge. Local only. My mother stood in the corner with both hands over her mouth. The dentist worked fast. She cut the cracked crown away in pieces. The sound of the drill filled my skull. Every time the burr touched the metal beneath, the lights flickered. At one point, the radio at the front desk turned on by itself. Static. Then the man. "M19, do not permit extraction." The dentist did not stop. "Bite open." My jaw tried to close. Not fear, not instinct. Command. The muscles seized so hard, the bite block cracked. My mother grabbed my left hand. The dentist shouted for the assistant. The assistant held my chin. I heard myself making a low animal sound, and underneath it, the tiny regular tapping of the transmitter. 3, 2, 3. The dentist leaned close to my ear and said, "You are awake. Answer me." I grunted. "What is your full name?" I said it badly around the bite block. "What year is it?" I answered. "What did you eat today?" "Coffee," I mumbled. "That is not food." The absurdity of that line cracked something open. I laughed. It hurt so badly I almost passed out, but the laugh was mine. My jaw loosened for half a second. She pulled. The sound was not a pop. It was a wet little electrical snap. The room went black. I came back to my mother crying and the dentist saying, "Stay with me." On the tray beside my face was the broken crown, one molar root fragment, and the black rectangle Dr. Bell had shown me in the diagram. It glistened with blood and saliva, small enough to lose in a carpet. It was still tapping. No one touched it. The dentist dropped it into a metal amalgam jar and screwed the lid down. The tapping continued through the lid for almost a minute. Then it stopped. For the first time in weeks, my jaw was quiet. I wanted that to be the end because pain makes you humble. It makes you willing to accept any ending that lets you sleep. We filed police reports. My mother hired a lawyer she could not afford. Dr. Bell disappeared for 48 hours and then called me from a hospital, hoarse but alive. She said she had fallen asleep in her records room and woken with 3 patient files spread neatly over her chest. One of them was mine. She also said the hidden directory went down after the extraction. M19 changed from active to extracted, then to quiet. That should have comforted me. It did, for about 6 nights. I slept in a real bed at my mother's house, with a towel on the pillow and painkillers on the nightstand. I dreamed normal, ugly dreams about bills, missed exams, and my teeth falling out, which felt almost funny under the circumstances. No tapping, no voice, no man asking for answers. Then the blank voice memo appeared. It was 3:13 in the morning. I woke to the soft bloop of a saved recording. My phone lay face down on the nightstand. The file was 22 minutes long. I did not play it until sunrise. For the first 10 minutes, there was only breathing. Mine. Then my sleeping voice whispered, "19 quiet." A new voice answered. It was not the man. It was thin, young, and close to the microphone. "Use open socket." I felt inside my mouth with my tongue. The extraction site was tender and empty. The recording clicked. The young voice said, "Relay does not require tooth." my sleeping voice answered. Subject still dreams. I turned the phone off and threw up in my mother's bathroom. The emergency dentist swore there was nothing left in my jaw. She took an x-ray from every angle. Empty socket, healing bone, no metal, no prongs, no foreign object. But when she adjusted the contrast, a faint serial number appeared in the negative space where the molar had been. M19. Not etched on anything, just there, like a watermark in the absence. That was 3 months ago. The socket healed. The pain faded. I got a partial denture I rarely wear because it makes the recordings clearer. Dr. Bell reopened her clinic with new equipment and a sign on her private office door that says no sleeping patients, no exceptions. My mother still apologizes in small ways. Groceries left on my porch, gas money tucked into birthday cards, texts that say, "Are you awake at times when no one should be?" The old apartment stayed vacant until last week. I know because my landlord emailed me about my security deposit and accidentally included a maintenance photo from the unit next door. The wall behind my bedroom radiator had been opened. Inside were pipes, dust, mouse droppings, and a strip of black adhesive holding a dead receiver against the plaster. It was not connected to power. It did not need to be. Someone had written on the plaster beside it in pencil, "Install before molar." I sleep lightly now, when I sleep at all. I put my phone in another room. I leave music playing. I tape my mouth some nights, which my doctor says not to do, but my doctor has not heard his own sleeping voice answer questions from a hole in his jaw. It does not stop the broadcasts. It only muffles them. Last night, I woke at 3:13 with my tongue pressed against the empty place where the molar used to be. My phone was in the kitchen. The voice memo app was open anyway. The recording was 11 seconds. There was breathing, one soft tap, and my sleeping voice. M19 ready. Then another voice, right beside my bed, whispered, "Ask while he thinks he is awake." I bought a dark web bathroom mirror from a condemned hotel, and one reflection keeps showering long after I leave. The mirror is wrapped in a quilt in my storage unit now. That sounds safer than it is. Storage units make people feel like distance is the same as control. You roll the metal door down, slide the lock through, walk back to your car, and tell yourself whatever you put in there is waiting politely with the Christmas lights and the broken chair. But glass remembers rooms. I did not know that when I bought it. I knew my bathroom looked awful. My landlord was ignoring me, and my sink mirror had a crack running through my face every morning like a permanent bad omen. I also knew I had $80, a cheap drill, and the kind of confidence you get from watching strangers renovate apartments in short videos. The listing was not supposed to be serious. I found it on a dark web salvage board I used mostly as a weird window shopping habit. It sold hotel keys, old elevator plates, casino carpet samples, ashtrays from closed clubs, things with enough history to feel expensive and enough rust to be cheap. Most of it looked like stolen junk, photographed on garage floors. The mirror listing had one image, a rectangular bathroom mirror leaning against a wall of white tile. No frame, rounded corners, a strip of old adhesive across the back. The glass was fogged, except for a handprint near the center. The title said, Room 614, Vanity Mirror, Condemned Hotel, Still Holds Steam. I remember thinking that was good copy. The seller called himself housekeeping left. His profile had no ratings, but the board had a rule that sellers of condemned property had to post proof of origin. Under the mirror photo was a demolition notice for the Alderbrook Hotel, a downtown place I knew only because my bus passed it on the way to work. It had been empty for years, one of those tall brick buildings with plywood over the first floor and curtains still hanging in the upper windows. The city condemned it after a fire in the service wing and a lawsuit nobody at work could explain without lowering their voice. The mirror was listed for $43. Shipping was $20. I bought it because $43 is the kind of price that lets you pretend a bad decision is just being resourceful. The confirmation page did not say thank you. It said occupancy, transfer, pending. I thought that meant ownership. 2 days later, a long flat package arrived in the lobby with no return address. The box was damp at one corner, soft enough that my thumb sank into the cardboard. The doorman, who cared about very little unless it involved parking violations, told me it had been dripping when it came in. "You ordering aquarium stuff?" he asked. "Bathroom mirror." He looked at the wet corner. "Sure." I carried it upstairs, tucked under one arm, leaving a faint trail on the hallway carpet. It smelled like old towels, bleach, and the inside of a hotel ice machine. When I opened the box, the quilted packing blanket around the mirror was wet. Not soaked, not ruined, just damp in the even way a towel is damp after someone hangs it carefully over a shower rod. A strip of masking tape on the back of the mirror had room 614 written in block letters. Under that, in smaller writing, was a second label: "Do not install facing toilet." I laughed because people who sell cursed-looking salvage always know exactly how to make you feel like the mark. Then I turned the mirror over and saw a checkout envelope taped to the glass. Inside was a key card from the Alderbrook Hotel and a folded housekeeping slip. The slip listed normal room tasks: towels replaced, sink wiped, tub rinsed, mirror reset. Under mirror reset, someone had written in blue pen, "Guest still in shower. Do not knock." I should have thrown it away. I know that. But the mirror was exactly the right size, and my old one came off the wall with 2 screws and a shower of plaster dust. The dark web part of the purchase already felt silly in daylight. The apartment was warm. My neighbor upstairs was playing music too loud. I had a real life around me, full of ordinary annoyances, and ordinary annoyances are very good at making danger feel theatrical. I installed it after work. It looked good. That was the stupidest part. It made the whole bathroom look better. The glass was heavy, bright, cleaner than I expected. The rounded corners softened the ugly tile. For the first time since moving in, I could stand at the sink without seeing the crack split my face in two. I brushed my teeth that night and watched myself, like any normal person does, not really looking, just checking for toothpaste and exhaustion. The mirror fogged at the edges. I had not showered. The apartment bathroom has no window, and the fan works when it feels like it. A little fog was not impossible. Steam comes from pipes, weather, bad ventilation. I told myself all of that while I wiped the glass with my sleeve. My reflection wiped too, half a second late. It was barely enough to notice, the kind of delay your brain tries to blame on tired eyes. I lifted my hand. The reflection lifted its hand. Normal. I opened my mouth. It opened its mouth. Normal. I leaned close enough to smell the old bleach from the glass. Nope. I said out loud. My reflection said it with me. No delay. I went to bed feeling ridiculous and woke at 2:14 to the sound of my shower running. Not a drip, not pipes, running. I lay still for a few seconds, doing the little math you do when something wakes you. Had I showered before bed? No. Had the faucet been loose? Maybe. Could the upstairs unit's plumbing sound like mine? Sometimes. Then steam rolled under the bathroom door. I got up slowly. The floorboards were cold. The hallway smelled like hotel soap. That sharp little lemon scent from wrapped bars. Light glowed under the bathroom door, even though I was sure I had turned it off. "Hello," I said, which is an insane thing to say to your own bathroom, but the human brain likes manners right up until the end. No answer. I opened the door. The shower was dry. The tub was dry. The curtain hung still. The faucet handles were off. No water. No light except the hall light behind me. But the mirror was completely fogged. Not just the edges. Every inch of it was white with steam. Water beads ran down the glass in little crooked trails. In the center, a hand had wiped a clear oval from the other side. I saw my face through it. Or I thought I did. My reflection stood where it should, in the doorway, wearing the same sleep shirt, hair smashed on one side, eyes wide. Behind the reflection, though, the shower was running. Water hammered down behind the curtain in the mirror world, throwing steam into the reflected room. I turned around. My actual shower was still dry. I looked back. In the mirror, my reflection had not turned. It was watching the curtain behind itself. Then a wet hand pulled the reflected shower curtain open. I stumbled backward hard enough to hit the hallway wall. The mirror showed my bathroom, but wrong in small hotel ways. The tile was cleaner. The light was warmer. There was a folded towel on the sink that I did not own. A little paper band wrapped around a glass. The reflected shower curtain had a brown stripe near the bottom instead of my cheap blue one. Someone stood in the reflected tub, not clearly. Steam hid most of him. I saw shoulders, a bowed head, water running over dark hair. He faced the wall with both palms pressed to the tile, as if trying to hold himself up. My reflection stood in the doorway and watched. I was in the hallway by then. My reflection was not. It raised one finger to its lips. The shower in the mirror kept running. I slept in the living room, with every light on. In the morning, the mirror was normal. No steam, no hotel towel, no man in the shower. My reflection was boring and obedient. The bathroom smelled faintly damp, but the tub was dry. The only proof was a line of water on the sink where the fog had condensed and dripped during the night. I took pictures. Of course, I took pictures. You can survive almost any first impossible thing if you turn it into evidence before it turns into memory. The photo showed a normal mirror, except one. In the corner of the second picture, reflected in the chrome faucet, was a tiny strip of shower curtain with a brown line near the bottom. I called in sick and spent the day digging. The Alderbrook Hotel had more history than I expected. Built in 1928, renovated badly in the 70s, sold twice, used as temporary housing for conference staff, airline overflow, touring crews, anyone the city needed to stack somewhere cheap. The official condemnation file was boring until page 43, where the plumbing notes started. Recurring hot water complaints, guests reporting showers running in vacant rooms, housekeeping unable to complete room resets due to occupied bath. Occupied bath. That phrase appeared 12 times. The fire that finally closed the place started in the service wing near the laundry chute, but the lawsuits were about room 614. A guest had died there years before the fire. The city documents called it an unattended medical event. The forums called it other things. Most of the posts were rumor, but one archived comment from a former night clerk made my mouth go dry. They kept renting 614 after he died because every inspection said the room was empty. Housekeeping kept saying no, somebody's in the shower. I went back to the dark web salvage board. Housekeeping left had deleted the mirror listing. His profile showed one new post. Occupancy. Transfer complete. Under it was a photo of my bathroom. Not from my phone. Not from my apartment. From inside the mirror, facing outward. The image showed my sink, my toothbrush cup, the hallway beyond the open door. At the edge of the frame was my shoulder, blurred as I walked past. The caption read, Room 614, no longer responsible. I sent the seller a message that was mostly panic with punctuation. What did you sell me? He replied 20 minutes later. You bought bath glass. Listing was accurate. I typed, there is someone in it. He wrote, there was someone in mine too. Then, do not remove while wet. I stared at that until my eyes hurt. Why? His final message came in all lowercase, because wet means occupied. Then he sent an attachment. I did not want to open it, which is usually the last clear warning your brain gives you before curiosity takes the wheel. The file name was not comforting. reset_card_614.jpg. It was a photograph of a laminated card, the kind housekeeping carts have clipped near the cleaning bottles. The top had the Alderbrook logo and a list of instructions written in cheerful hotel language. If bath glass remains active after guest departure, follow reset procedure before assigning new room. 1. Confirm room is dry. 2. Face mirror toward closed bathroom door. 3. Run hot water until guest appears. 4. Ask, are you finished? 5. If guest answers no, leave room and mark occupied. 6. If guest answers yes, wipe glass top to bottom and write next guest name before steam clears. At the bottom, someone had added a handwritten line. Never write your own name. I read it 3 times with my mouth open, like that would help it make sense. Housekeeping left sent one more message before his account went gray. Previous owner wrote mine. I checked his profile again. Most of it was empty, but old cached posts still showed up if I searched his handle inside the board. He had bought the mirror 6 months before me from another seller called Night Ordered Archive. His first post about it had been almost funny. Anyone else have hotel glass that sweats? A week later, the tone changed. He asked whether water could run in an apartment with the main shut off. Then he asked how to remove a mirror without passing guest. Nobody answered in public. Under one cached thread, a moderator had written, take occupancy disputes to private resolution. Do not contaminate salvage categories. Contaminate. That word did more to scare me than any skull icon or red warning banner could have. It made the mirror sound like a paperwork problem with teeth. I went back to the city archive and searched for room 614 with the word guest. The name that kept appearing was Evan Rusk. He had checked into the Alderbrook during a regional sales conference in 2009 and never checked out in the normal sense. The official report said he was found in the shower after missing a morning meeting. No forced entry, no drugs in the room. Water damage below 614 on 5 floors. The part that stayed with me was the maintenance note. Shower handle was in off position when staff entered. Water continued to run in mirror. There was a scanned deposition from a housekeeper, but most of it was blacked out. One unredacted answer sat alone on the page. Question: what did you see in the bathroom mirror? Answer: he was still rinsing, but the tub was empty. I printed that page, then immediately wished I had not. Seeing the words on paper made the mirror in my bathroom feel like it had gained weight through the wall. That afternoon, I tried a small experiment because denial sometimes dresses up as research. I boiled water in a kettle, carried the steam into the bathroom in a mixing bowl, and held it under the mirror without turning on the shower. Fog gathered at the bottom edge. My reflection appeared behind it. For a few seconds, it matched me. Then it looked down, not at the bowl, at the sink. I looked down too. Water was circling the drain, though the faucet was off. When I looked back up, a name had formed in the fog where my reflection's finger had moved. Even. Then, beneath it, not finished. I dropped the bowl. Hot water splashed my feet, and the mirror cleared all at once. The bathroom went silent, except for my own breathing. That was the moment I stopped thinking of the man in the reflected shower as a ghost in the simple way. Ghosts haunt. This thing occupied. It treated rooms like accounts, mirrors like doors, steam like a login screen, and names like keys. The dark web board had not sold me a haunted antique. It had passed along a vacancy problem. I did not shower that day. I wiped myself down at the kitchen sink like I was camping indoors. I kept the bathroom door closed and a towel shoved against the bottom. Around midnight, water began pattering behind it. I could see no light under the door. The sound went on for 4 hours. At first, it was just water. Then I heard movement. A foot slipping in a tub. A hand hitting tile. One cough, deep and wet. I sat on the living room floor with my back against the couch, holding a hammer I had bought for hanging picture frames. At 3:03, a man's voice spoke from the bathroom. "Room service?" I did not answer. He knocked on the mirror. Not the door. The mirror. 3 soft taps, glass on knuckle. "Room service." The voice was not loud. That made it worse. It sounded embarrassed, like a guest caught needing help. I texted my friend Lena because she was the only person I knew who would not start with, "You bought what from where?" She worked nights at a call center and had heard enough strange fear in people's voices to trust tone before facts. She answered, "Leave the apartment." I wrote, "What about the mirror?" She wrote, "Congratulations on owning a bad mirror. Leave." That made me laugh, and the laugh almost broke me because it was the first normal sound in hours. I put on shoes, grabbed my keys, and opened the front door. The shower stopped. The sudden silence pinned me in place. From the bathroom came the wet squeak of a hand dragging down glass. Then my own voice said, "Don't leave me in here." I had not heard myself from the outside before. Recordings are one thing, echoes are one thing, but this was my voice with a door between us, thin and scared, and so perfectly timed to my guilt that I almost answered. Lena called me. I picked up without speaking. "Walk out," she said. "It sounds like me." "Of course it does. That's how mirrors work. Walk out." I stepped into the hallway. Behind me, my voice screamed once. I shut the door and ran down 6 flights of stairs. I slept in Lena's car in the call center parking lot while she finished her shift. When we went back at dawn, she brought a crowbar, rubber gloves, and the absolute tired anger of someone who had not had enough caffeine to be afraid yet. The bathroom was dry. The mirror looked ordinary. Lena stood in front of it, arms folded. "That is a hotel mirror," she said. "Yes." "It has bad vibes." "Yes." "Cool. We remove it." The seller said not to remove it wet. "Is it wet?" It was not. We taped cardboard over the glass because every horror movie and every piece of folk advice on earth seemed to agree about covering mirrors. Then we unscrewed the brackets and lifted it off the wall. The back of the mirror was covered in old black adhesive and one long rust-colored smear. Stamped into the backing was, "Alderbrook property. Do not transfer occupancy without reset." Lena read it once and said, "I'm choosing not to understand that." We wrapped the mirror in a blanket and carried it to my storage unit because it was the only place I could think of that did not involve throwing a wet hotel problem into a public dumpster. The unit was on the edge of town, a row of orange doors under security lights. We leaned the mirror against the back wall, still covered, and I put the Alderbrook key card on top of it, like that meant something. For 2 nights, my bathroom stayed normal. I showered at Lena's place and avoided reflective surfaces like a vampire with rent due. Then, because life is cruel in practical ways, I had to go home, wash my hair, and get ready for work. The wall above my sink looked naked without the mirror. 4 screw holes, a rectangle of cleaner paint. I kept my eyes on the faucet and took the fastest shower of my life. When I pulled the curtain open, steam filled the room. The wall above the sink reflected me, not like a mirror, not clearly. The paint had gone glossy with condensation, and in that wet rectangle where the mirror used to hang, my reflection stood in the shower with the water still running over its head. I was standing on the bath mat. It was still behind the curtain. Its face was hidden by wet hair. Then it lifted one hand and pressed it against the inside of the invisible glass. I backed out of the bathroom naked, dripping, and shaking so hard I could not get the towel around myself. The reflection did not follow. The shower sound did. It kept running from the empty wall until the steam dried. I called the storage facility. The manager said my unit was fine. No break-in, no water damage. I asked him to check whether the blanket was wet. "Mom," he said, "I'm not touching whatever you wrapped in there." Fair. Lena drove me to the Alderbrook that evening because she said every terrible object has an address, and the mirror's address was not my bathroom. We did not tell anyone. We brought gloves, flashlights, and a printed copy of the demolition notice in case a security guard caught us, and we needed to look like the world's least convincing contractors. The hotel stood behind chain link on a block that had been promised redevelopment for so long the promise itself looked condemned. Plywood covered the lobby windows. The old marquee letters had been removed, leaving pale rectangles on the brick. On the 6th floor, several windows still had curtains. One of them was lit. "Nope," Lena said. But she did not leave. We found a gap in the fence near the alley, squeezed through, and followed a side wall to a service door hanging open on one hinge. The inside smelled like wet plaster, burned cloth, and carpet that had learned too much. Our flashlights caught peeling wallpaper, a fallen exit sign, a luggage cart tipped on its side. The lobby looked wrong without people. Hotels are built to pretend every stranger belongs for a little while. Empty, they become stages after the actors have died. The elevators were dead, so we took the stairs. On the third floor, we heard a shower running somewhere above us. Lena stopped. That better be rain. There was no rain. By the fifth floor, the sound was constant. Pipes knocked inside the walls. Water rushed overhead. The air grew warm and damp, and our flashlight beams caught steam curling along the ceiling like breath. Room 614 was at the end of a hallway where the carpet squished under our shoes. The door was closed. The key card from the mirror box was in my pocket. I had not planned to use it. I had brought it the way people bring tokens to places where logic has stopped helping. The lock light blinked red when I slid it, then green. Lena whispered, "I hate that." Inside, room 614 looked cleaner than the rest of the hotel. Not clean, just preserved. The bed had no mattress, but the frame was scented. The desk chair sat tucked in. The curtains were drawn. A strip of daylight showed around the edges, thin and gray. The bathroom door was open. Steam poured out. The shower was running. The vanity mirror above the sink was missing, leaving a dark rectangle of exposed adhesive on the wall. In the middle of that empty rectangle was a handprint in clear condensation. Someone was in the tub. I could see the shape through the curtain. Head bowed. One arm braced against tile. "Sir?" Lena said. The shape did not move. I stepped closer because apparently there is a point where fear becomes a wire and it just pulls you. The hotel bathroom smelled exactly like my apartment had smelled when the box arrived. Old towels, bleach, ice machine. On the sink sat a housekeeping slip. Towels replaced, sink wiped, tub rinsed, mirror reset pending. Under that, in blue pen, guest transferred. Reflection remained. The shower curtain moved, not pulled, breathed. Lena grabbed my arm. "We are done." The shape in the tub raised its head. Behind the curtain, its outline changed. For a second, it looked like a man. Then it looked like me. Same height, same shoulders, same wet hair. Its hand slid up the inside of the curtain, fingers spreading. My phone buzzed. A dark web notification sat on the screen. "Housekeeping left has sent you a new listing." I should not have opened it. I know. The listing showed my storage unit. The quilt had fallen from the mirror. In the glass, room 614's empty bathroom reflected back, dry and waiting. The title said, "Vacant apartment bath, active occupancy, local pickup." The price was $43. "He's selling my bathroom," I said. Lena pulled harder. "Then stop shopping." The reflected thing in the tub laughed with my mouth. The bathroom door slammed shut. Lena was on the room side. I was inside the bathroom. It happened so fast, my hand was still extended toward her when wood hit the frame between us. She shouted my name from the other side and threw her shoulder into the door. I grabbed the knob. It turned freely. The door did not open. The shower curtain bulged outward. The thing behind it whispered, "Housekeeping?" Water ran around the drain in a tight, dark circle. I backed against the sink. My shoulder hit the empty mirror adhesive. It was warm and wet. Lena hit the door again. "Cover your face." "What?" "Cover your face." I did. The door window, a small safety panel I had not even registered, exploded inward as she smashed it with the crowbar. Glass sprayed across the sink and floor. Her arm came through, searching for the latch. The thing in the shower moved. The curtain rings rattled one by one. I grabbed the housekeeping slip from the sink. I do not know why. Maybe because paper had started this, and paper felt like a weapon in a place that cared about records. I slapped it against the empty mirror rectangle, right where the handprint was. The wet adhesive took it. The shower stopped. Lena got the door open. We ran. Behind us, from inside room 614, my voice shouted, "I am not done rinsing." The hallway lights flickered, though the building had no power. Every room we passed sounded occupied. Showers running, faucets turning, curtain rings clicking, a man coughing in 609, a woman humming in 611. In 612, a child giggled behind a locked bathroom door. We hit the stairs at a dead run. On the 5th floor landing, water poured down the steps from above, warm around our ankles. I slipped and slammed my hip into the rail. Lena hauled me up by my jacket. "Do not look in the puddles," she said. Of course I looked. In the water on the stairs, dozens of small reflections showered in dozens of little bathrooms. Some were men, some were women, some were only silhouettes behind curtains. One was me, standing under the water with both hands against the tile, waiting. The reflections all turned their heads together. We made it out through the service door and did not stop running until we were on the other side of the fence. The 6th floor lit window went dark. My phone buzzed again. Listing updated. I smashed it on the sidewalk. That did not stop the listing. Lena drove us straight to the storage facility. I wanted to burn the mirror. She wanted to call the police, firefighters, a priest, and maybe a locksmith, in that order. We settled on getting the thing out of my unit before housekeeping left, sold it to someone who thought $43 was a bargain. The storage manager met us with a flashlight and the exhausted politeness of a man who had seen every version of people making their problems his problem. "Your unit has been making noise," he said. "What kind of noise?" He looked at me. "Shower." The orange door was wet on the inside when he rolled it up. Water ran out over the concrete in a shallow sheet. My cardboard boxes sagged. The broken chair had mold blooming on one arm. At the back, the mirror stood uncovered. It reflected room 614. Not my unit. Not us. Room 614. Bathroom door open, shower running, steam thick enough to blur the tile. In that reflection, the housekeeping slip I had slapped on the wall was stuck to the glass. The words had changed. Mirror, reset, accepted. Occupant, unassigned. Under that, a blank line waited. The storage manager said, "Is that a hotel room?" "Do not stand in front of it," Lena said. Too late. The mirror caught him. His reflection appeared in the hotel bathroom, standing by the sink with the same confused expression. The real man stepped back. His reflection did not. It looked down at the blank line on the slip. The shower curtain in the reflection opened behind him. I threw the quilt over the mirror. The storage manager swore and stumbled away. For 1 second, from under the quilt, we heard his voice say, "I was just checking." Then it became the shower again. We left the mirror wrapped. I know that sounds cowardly. It is cowardly. But I'd learned enough by then to understand that destroying a door is not the same as closing it. The mirror was dry under the quilt after a while, but dry did not mean safe. Dry only meant waiting. The police report went nowhere. The officer who came to my apartment asked why I had purchased a hotel mirror through an illegal marketplace, and that question had enough shame in it to make the rest of my statement sound like a confession to being stupid. He wrote down, "Possible online scam and property dispute," and left when he realized no one was bleeding. The Alderbrook was fenced tighter the next week. 2 weeks later, it burned again. The news said squatters probably started it. The fire department said the upper floors were too unstable to search. I watched the footage online and saw water pouring from 6th-floor windows before any hose reached them. For a second, as the camera zoomed in, a hand wiped steam from the inside of a broken window. Then the clip cut away. Housekeeping Left's profile disappeared after the fire. The salvage board banned discussion of Alderbrook property for transaction safety. That phrase appeared in a moderator post under a thread full of people asking why their bathrooms smelled like lemon soap. I moved out of my apartment at the end of the month. I left the bathroom mirror space empty. The landlord kept my deposit because of excess moisture damage, which was almost funny in a way that made me want to throw a chair. Lena let me sleep on her couch for 3 weeks. She's still my friend, which is not a small thing after someone watches your reflection try to take a storage manager. We do not joke about bad mirrors anymore. We do not say certain phrases. Room service still holds steam. Local pickup. The storage unit is paid through the end of the year. I have tried to stop paying for it. Twice. Both times, the facility's website declined the cancellation and sent me an automated error. Unit occupied. The manager quit. The new one will not discuss my unit over the phone. Last month, I drove out there in the afternoon and found a printed notice taped to the orange door. Water use violation. There are no water lines in that row. I put my ear to the door because apparently a person can survive something and still be foolish in exactly the same shape. Behind the metal, a shower was running. Then my own voice, muffled by quilt and glass and distance, said, "I will be out in a minute." I have not gone back since. At my new place, I use a little round mirror propped on the dresser. It has never fogged. It has never delayed. I check it every morning anyway. I keep the bathroom fan on even when the shower is off. I leave the curtain open. I do not buy used hotel anything, but 2 nights ago, I woke to the smell of lemon soap. The bathroom was dark, dry, empty. On the mirror above the dresser, someone had written in steam, "Please wait." I wiped it off with my sleeve. My reflection wiped half a second late. Then, from somewhere that was not my bathroom, and not the storage unit, and not the Alderbrook Hotel anymore, water started running. That is where we will leave it tonight, with a ticket waiting beside an empty seat, a voice still answering through sleep, and steam writing on glass after the room should be dry. If one reflection in your bathroom kept showering after you walked away, would you cover the mirror, break it, or ask what name it was waiting for?